Right. Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm your host, Nika Sherelle, and this is the ItCast Real Talk on Sex. The ItCast is our community outreach podcast that increases diversity in conversations on health and sexuality. Through this work, we are creating a world where all people feel loved, honored, and respected. Oh. Hey, Misha. Okay, cool. So I'm going to just run through the announcements, and then I will share about our lovely guest today. All right. So we would love for you to ask us anything. Misha and I are here this episode, and feel free to drop questions in the chat. You can also share questions anonymously through our Google Form, so you can see that as well. And this is super perfect. So Soul Play. Soul Play is coming up this summer. It is 4 days focused on heart-opening connection, blissful dance, invigorating yoga, and incredible community. Misha and I are both going to be leading workshops there. I'm doing a shame workshop, releasing sexual shame, and creating authentic intimacy. Misha, would you like to share about what you're going to be leading?
Yeah, I'm leading my class on Slut Secure. It's a secure attachment connection, no matter what casual or more serious connections. And then I'm also doing the Garden of Delights, which will be probably the Saturday night party. So that will be very fun.
Awesome. Okay. This event's going to be a little saucier than I thought, guys. Okay. So you can find out more on our resource page about Soul Play at theitcast.com/resources. The ItCast team also, oh guys, okay, seriously. The team and I want to thank you for your contributions to our Patreon. Not only are you getting access to our bonus content, but your contributions also support us making this work possible. So I want to give a special thanks to Daniel. Love you, bro. Hey out there. And then also my best friend, Erica. Thank you for your contributions and your support. I know there are many more of you out there. So just thank you. Go ahead and join our community and support what we're doing over here. That's patreon.com/Nika Sherelle. And that's also in the chat. Go ahead and subscribe to this YouTube channel, and let's go ahead and dive into our episode. So this week we're doing Real Talk on Transformative Sexual Spaces. Today in the booth, we have Misha Bonaventura. Misha co-produces Bonobo Network, where she passionately supports sex-positive community and helps pleasure seekers worldwide create more of what they want for themselves. Her private practice focuses on conflict resolution, communication coaching, and she loves supporting her clients in creating sustainable, long-term relationship building. She's a recent graduate of the Somatica Institute and is now offering even bigger menu of sex and relationship coaching in her private coaching practice. Yes, Misha. All right. Go ahead and tell us a bit about yourself and why you chose to do the show.
Yeah. Hi. Let's see. Where do I start? Yeah, I have been in sex positive spaces for the past 10, 15 years and have grown my network and what my offerings are through all kinds of ways. I did What is Erotic for a while, which is a sex positive theater show down in Santa Cruz, where we supported new performers to like put their sexy selves out on stage with their own personal stories, from anything from dancing to comedy skits to, monologues to poetry, things like that. Anyway, that was really wonderful and fun. And then started to come up to sexy spaces up here in the Bay Area, and really saw that there was an opportunity for a deep transformation for myself. Actually, is why I keep coming back to these spaces over and over again. And it was really, sex party spaces where so much is available to communicate and to be more authentic and transparent about our turn-ons and what we wanting to, what we want in the world. But then, how do we balance that with being consensual and communicating and being more explicit about what we're wanting, so that we're not doing these weird things that society teaches us how to do, which is we're just going to like feel into the space, or I'm going to like be too scared to say what I want because I might get rejected and things like that. So, and then, jealousy comes up. There's so many things that come up in that space that is really, stuff to work on in ourselves in order for us to be more authentically expressed, not just in sexual spaces, but in all of life. And to me, that's like, it's been such an honor to provide that space in the Bay Area and now beyond. And then dovetail it with my conflict resolution work, which, if you're going to be in relationship, you should also know how to do conflict resolution, or at least be able to repair your relationships, especially in community.
If I knew how to do that a decade ago or a day ago, anyway.
It's rough. It's rough. It's not a simple process.
Yeah. What I will say is like, anyway, telling someone your turn-ons leads to the best sex ever on the planet. Like it's amazing. I used to do that like non-communicative, like, sure, like whatever they want, let me be responsive. But also it was like not thoroughly enjoyable as it is now. I mean, it's yo yummy. And there is that like context of you can't be too forward. And that's one of the things I love about the community, because it's like, it's about being direct, like period, hands down.
Yeah.
On the sexy theater bit, so can I share?
Oh, please. Yeah, I would love to hear.
So I did the HI Institute, the Human Awareness Institute, love their work. And I was up one year, and on the Saturday night, they have like a talent show. So this being this really sex positive, clothing optional space, I decide that I'm going to do a strip hula hoop burlesque performance.
Wow.
I'm like in this like really cute outfit, and I know how to hula hoop pretty good. So I'm like doing little tricks and unbuttoning. It was crazy. I've not done anything. I hadn't done anything before like that or anything since. And it was like the best time I had ever had.
Sounds fabulous. You should definitely go down to Santa Cruz and try out for What is Erotic next year.
Oh, okay. Put that in my
I'll hook you up.
So I love this. So you talked about like people getting jealous. Oh my God. Can we like have a deeper conversation around like what leads into that? And I know like one of the things we talk about is poly spaces. So like there's a conversation there, and then there's of course the conversation without that context. So yeah, share a little bit more about jealousy.
Yeah, I mean, so jealousy is really a huge amount of different emotions put together. And so one of the best ways to start to work with jealousy is to piece apart what are the actual emotions that we're feeling, because there's lots of different layers and reasons why we might be starting to feel scared or sad or worried or, you know, like all kinds of things that might be happening inside of like what we talk about as the jealousy frame. And so that is one tip. The other thing is, you know, in monogamy land, you know, I think monogamy really solves for ending, you know, like, oh, we don't have to be jealous anymore because now it's very clear, you know, now that we're together, it's very clear that you're not going to like look at somebody else or be with somebody else. Whereas in polyland, like all of that starts to get it gets obliterated, right? And now there's lots of different possibilities and ways in which our insecurities will come up. And so embracing the insecurity of, you know, what might happen when our partner is attracted to somebody else, or when we're feeling left out, or, you know, we don't feel attractive enough, or, you know, like all kinds of things happen, all kinds of stories happen. One of my biggest transformational moments with jealousy came when I realized I had, you know, one of my best friends was starting to become attracted to another fairly close friend of mine who was so one of my female best friends and one of my male best friends became attracted to each other. And I had this like kind of funny relationship with my male friend who we called each other pseudo boyfriend, pseudo girlfriend, because we would be anchor partners for each other at parties. So we weren't actually, you know, we weren't actually romantic or anything, but we were kind of playing that role so that we could have an anchor person at these events that we would end up together in. And it was really sweet connection.
Can you describe what an anchor person is? Like, what is that and what is the role?
Right. Yeah. Lingo. Right. So an anchor person basically is like somebody who you can feel anchored or grounded with at, you know, you can have one with your life. Like often that person is your nesting partner, which is also, you know, the person that you're living with. So we have all these kind of terms that break apart some of the monogamous mindset terms. Like nesting partner may not necessarily be a romantic partner, but it's someone who you live with. And it could be a romantic, you know, and your nesting partner could be a romantic partner as well. So there's, you know, how do we actually break apart some of the paradigms or assumptions that we make around some of the roles that we have in our life? So anchor partner, basically for me, that means I feel anchored by this person being here, and they are someone who I can come back to, I can feel grounded with. We have, you know, sweetness, we know each other, things like that. So anyway, I was kind of playing with this guy, and he and my friend started getting attracted to each other. And I was really like, I was pretty jealous, and it was coming up for me. And I was just like, this sucks. Like, I really don't want to be like this. And this is what's happening. I'm feeling left out. I'm feeling scared that I'm not going to have my little anchor person anymore. My best friend is like starting to get all excited about this other person. I also don't feel like I felt kind of sad that me and the guy didn't really connect romantically, even though, you know, and so there were feelings around that. So anyway, when I started inquiring to myself around what was going on, was like, oh, I'm jealous of this person because I think they're better than me.
Okay. That needed an audible moment, because I had been looking and like, it's okay over here. And I'm like, yeah, that part.
Yeah. And then I was like, okay, I think this person is better than me. Like, they're my best friend. I love them, you know, like, and I'm like, oh, I think she's prettier than me. I think she's smarter than me. I think she's awesome. Oh, I actually adore this person. I actually like admire this person. And the reason why I'm jealous is because I think that they're like, I actually admire them. And if I can change that thought in my mind from I'm in competition with them to I admire this person and I want, like, I actually want to be closer to them. I don't want to be holding myself apart. Anyway, I ended up confronting her and telling her that I was feeling all of this and that, like, it was actually because I admired her so much. And she was like, oh my God, I admire you and I've been jealous of you and all this stuff. And it was like, oh, wonderful. Like, what amazingness that I could actually vulnerably say this to my friend and she could vulnerably share back. And we could share this moment of like, oh, we've been feeling the same thing toward each other. And we actually, it's this mutual like fan club happening instead of this competition that could have been happening. Anyway, beautiful transformational moment for sure.
I have definitely had that moment. Or maybe those moments. And I love that you said, like, the way you created jealousy with like the sadness and the fear, and like there was something else that was in there, but it was just so well broken down. Because like when I have that experience, I don't even know, like, I don't know where it comes from. And then I beat myself up for having the experience, or of course, judge them and like then judge me against them. It's like all of that context. And to actually just be able to sit down and say, okay, my jealousy is here. What's underneath that? And like really like be able to understand and grasp. And it's different, I'm sure, in every situation with each individual person. So yeah, that's really powerful. And then you talked about, I love the monoland and polyland. That's perfect. So the idea, like you mentioned, like the idea in monoland is that you're gonna like get your person and you're never gonna be jealous ever again. And you got that locked down and it's tight. And I'm like, no. Like I feel like it's actually it's difficult when you're not talking about it, like the fact that you were able to talk about this with a friend, and like that there can be romantic and platonic relationships and all these different things is really beautiful, and you get to be direct and you get to be heard in these spaces. Now I must say, you blew my mind with the nesting partner doesn't have to be romantic sex. I'm like, wait a minute, no, that hardly computes. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I've been playing with relationships for a long time. So like I've been really trying to break apart what are my own internal paradigms of relating and how can I get my needs met even when I don't have a romantic person that is meeting the need that I really want, which is like my ultimate fantasy, right? And so it's not every day that someone shows up with your ultimate fantasy that's going to like come and live with you and fulfill your romantic, loves and, cook for you and, all the things. Like that's actually, a pretty hard person to find. And often what happens is we fall in love and then go into this, fantasy land. And then we end up having to like really work hard once the chemicals have worn off. The new relationship energy, NRE, and the ways in which we're projecting our love and romance onto another person, then we have to do all this work to actually love them for who they actually are. And and that's the work of love. So what I've been doing is like, okay, so how do I actually break apart some of the ways in which I want to project somebody into a role that I want them to fill? And how do I actually find people that want to fill these roles and naturally fit there in my life? And so I have somebody who is sometimes a nesting partner. His name is House Pal. We have some romance, but we're not necessarily a sexual, like we don't do a lot of sexual connection, but we do have some romance. Like we'll do sweet things for each other all the time. We'll cook for each other or make food for we make food for each other all the time. We'll ask each other to go for a walk. We'll snuggle. We run around naked the house. We hold hands sometimes, like all the sweet things that like I long for and adore in having a relationship, like a, you know, a romantic relationship, and that I might not be having right now. And he comes and like does this with me. And he's not a full-time house pal. He comes and goes. And so that's part of it too, is like, we're not housemates. We don't have a contract, nothing like that. He comes and stays with me sometimes when he's in town. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful relationship, beautiful connection. And then we also work on our own attachment stuff. So that's the other thing, is like, I want people in my life who are working on feeling securely attached with each other. And part of getting the sexual piece out is, you know, it's very easy to project lots of things onto people who we are very highly sexually attracted to. And so how do we slow that pace down? How do we actually love somebody for who they are instead of what they can give us, which is either like a hot sexual connection or these other things that we want them to fill in our lives? And yeah, how do we actually allow them to fit the way that works for them?
I must admit, y'all are making this poly shit sound better and better and better every time. Like, I've been like, I love it. I don't get it because it's so in depth and there's so many different layers and ways that it happens, and it's individual for each individual person. One of my favorite moments is you're saying, like, you know, it's not inherently sexual. There's all these different ways you can connect and relate. A friend of mine was explaining poly to her family, and she was like, yeah, that's my puppy daddy. And like, she was raising this dog.
Yeah.
This guy that wasn't her nesting partner. And like, it was a whole thing. And I was like, huh. And now that you're saying this, I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I also have a Costco husband, and we share a Costco membership together, which is one of my deepest relationships, actually. But we like literally, that's how we have bonded, is over our Costco membership. And I call him my Costco husband.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a funny life I've created for myself, that's for sure.
Beautiful, you know, it's beautiful. Like, everyone gets to have their needs met, everyone gets to be cared for, there gets to be a lot of communication. I mean, as you were just talking about the new relationship energy and the projecting, I'm like, ooh, yeah, I resemble that remark 100%. And I think it is one of those like natural, like, it's a natural way of being in that, like, in the monogamous paradigm. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, attachment is real, right? Attachment is real. And all of that links back to our original attachment figures, which are our parents. And then we start to project that onto our sexual partners as adults. And shifting our attachment styles, or like, if we are insecurely attached, or we have insecure attachment parts, then healing those is basically what we're doing with our romantic partners. And whether you're doing it consciously or you're doing it unconsciously, like, that's happening. And so, you know, creating secure attachment is an important aspect. And, you know, early relationships are inherently insecure because you don't actually know what you're doing together. And so becoming more and more clear about what you're doing together early on can help your nervous system to relax and become more securely attached. And then as the relationship progresses, you can discuss that as well. And this is what I teach in my Slut Secure class with Reed Mahalko, who is my co-teacher in that.
I love it. I hope our classes don't overlap.
I know.
Very sad. Okay. So just give us a breakdown of attachment theory. Like, I'm present to it, and also like give us some clarity. Yeah.
Yeah. So attachment theory is there's two types of attachment: secure and insecure. Secure attachment is where you feel your nervous system feels calm, connected, and secure to the people in your life. Jessica Fern, that wrote Polysecure, highly recommended to anybody who is exploring polyamory. I think it's one of the best polyamorous books out there. is talks about the nested attachment, the nested model of attachment, which her theory is actually that we are attached to all kinds of things, whether it be our home or the earth or our partners. And so really starting to, like, one of the things that I loved about this book is to start looking through the lens of of my own security in every single part of my life. And that it just creates an amazing lens, because then I can say, oh, I'm feeling a little insecure here. I feel a little insecure here with my money. What do I need to do to feel more secure here? Oh, I need to be in more relationship, or I need to make a little more money, or I need to like go take a class and figure out how to do this, like whatever it might be. And so when you're with a romantic partner, what helps you become more secure is basically what is the lens that I've started looking through. Insecure attachment, there's three types of insecure attachment. One is, and these terms, I really want these terms to start to shift, but this is what we have right now. It's anxious, avoidant, and disorganized, which is both. So anxious means that when you're in a deep connected relationship, your system becomes more anxious and wanting to like enmesh in order to feel connected. The avoidant person, when they are in a very close relationship, they're needing autonomy. So enmeshment, connection, and sovereignty are kind of the spectrums of connection, of attachment. And the different wounds created both of those strategies for safety. So the enmeshment safety one is like, oh, I need to feel more connected to you, and I'm gonna like hold on as much as possible. The avoidant one, or the sovereign one, the autonomous person, needs to say, I need my own space. I need to know that I am here, and I am, like I have this is me and that is you, and I need to have lots of separation for that to happen. The disorganized person, they go back and forth, and disorganized tends to be happen because of abusive relationships with the parent figures. So that's the smallest, the smaller amount of people that tend to be disorganized. I also think in Polyland, different people bring up different things for us. So like someone who might be, might feel insecure with us and might feel like more enmeshed. They might want, they might bring up in me more avoidance, whereas somebody who is more avoidant might bring up some anxiety and anxious attachment, and I might like want to enmesh more. So, there's none of the research has been done with poly people. It's all been monogamous, and it's all been, so, there's a lot more to learn, I think, around attachment theory.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, this is just my, I don't know, assumption that they're like, the practice of polyamory is actually having fewer attachments and like things of that nature. I don't know how that would play into the theories of it, but thank you for that. I had heard about it, and that was so clear and so succinct.
Can I say something about what you just said?
Yeah.
So my current theory is that there's a difference between attachment and love, and that attachment is there in order for us to get to the love, and that attachment is not love. Attachment is, so separating those things out is really important. And understanding that, like, I think one of the transformational pieces, go back to our theme for today, is, I think I thought my anxiety meant that I was in love with someone. And when I think that my anxiety equals love, then that's actually not true. I love lots of people who I'm not anxiously attached to, or, my friend group, I feel very securely connected to them. They can go off and do lots of things and come back. I may not hear from them for, weeks or months. And I still, when they come back, I'm like, oh yeah, we're like super close. I love them. But with a partner, a person who I have attachment, like a romantic attachment to, if I don't hear from them, my anxiety levels and my internal trauma, my abandonment trauma will come up. And that has me be like, oh, well, I love you. And if you don't do this, then you don't love me and blah, blah, blah. Like there's all this story around that piece. Anyway, just starting to think about like, where are the places that I love that feel calm and connected, and my nervous system is calm, and how is that different than my romantic connections? And that is the clue as to where where attachment stuff is up, where there's possible insecure attachment happening that go back to the parent attachment figures.
Okay, yeah. One small question. In the disorganized one that you were talking about, would that at all appear like playing hot and cold, so they say?
Oh yeah. She talks about as having one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake. Do you feel called out? I'm sorry.
Everyone who's just listening out there, I'm shielding my face from the truth. Wow. Okay. This is such a learning time. So we've talked about a lot of the conversation around the space. Let's talk about transformative sexual spaces. Like, I know that there are a lot of practices, a lot of groups. So please share.
Yeah. So the organization that I run along with William Winters is Bonobo Network. We are a sex positive community of people who are, pleasure seekers. And I really hold the frame that we are providing a laboratory for people to practice consent culture. And it is one of the most important things I think we need to do as a culture, as a society, is to start becoming more and more consent-based. And so my mission is to create as big of a space as we can possibly create to teach people how to be in consensual connection with each other, romantically, sexually, and in all the ways. And and that's what we're doing with Bonobo Network. And so I really see it as a space where, can we actually get enough people to learn how to be consensually connected to each other sexually in a yummy way, like that's kind of the carrot, right? Like that's the prize at the end is like, oh yeah, we get to have all these yummy connections. But along the way, just like what we were talking about, the jealousy and the hard conversations and all the things, like the internal transformation that has to happen, all of these things have to happen because our society is really screwed up around sex, really screwed up. So how do we build our own little mini culture and then bring it out into the world? I think Soul Play is also doing this. I was the consent and accountability director of Soul Play for the past couple of years. I just transitioned out of that, but I directed the vision in that of that program. And I think festivals are an amazing place to start creating consent culture, along with sexy parties are a pretty fringe thing. Like not everyone's going to go to a sex party, right?
True.
But, But I think our space provides a ground for us to practice in the most intense, in the most intense spectrum of human connection. And then we can start to bring it out to, I mean, in some regard, festivals are just one big sex party. They're not explicit about it, right? Like people are going, they want to hook up, they're partying, they're on, like who knows what kind of substances they're on. There's all kinds of things that are happening that in some regards, festivals are like kind of very large sex parties. They're just not explicit about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an orgy made of orgies.
Yeah. I mean, people have to go back to their tents and have sex, but they're really, I mean, there's lots of people looking to hook up there. And when we can infuse consent culture into these spaces, into these larger spaces where people are coming together, wanting to connect, wanting to hook up, wanting to find partners, whatever they're doing, and start to educate people on how to do it differently, that is when I think real change can happen.
Mm-hmm. That's real. That's real. One of our main tenets for the work that I do is creating consent as the framework for human interaction. So, like, beyond the sexual romantic conversation, like, how can we be consensual with each other, in our conversation, in the workplace, even with our kids, like, how can we create and start to build conversations of respect and autonomy, regardless of age, race, gender, all those different things. So I really believe in that. And baby steps.
Oh yeah, I mean it's incredibly important for sure. And yeah, consent goes way beyond sexual consent for sure. And yeah, I just think for me, because sex is such a like it's the thing that people want, right? Like it's like the carrot, and it's like, okay, well, if that's the thing that people want, then like how do we make it so that they have to do certain things, they need to learn certain things in order to like get to the juiciness that is the connection that we all want. We all want intimacy, we all want connection, we all want to feel like we belong,
right? And we don't just want sex, we want good sex.
Yeah.
Right? Like, who doesn't look at that and think, I bet that tastes good?
Yeah. And we've just been, I mean, no one has been taught how to act in ways that are, consensual and connected, and like, all patriarchy and how women have been treated for hundreds of years, and how, people of color have been treated for hundreds, I mean, it's just like, there's so much to unravel, right? Like there's so much to unravel. And a lot of it has to do with sexual expression, and then gender, like I love that gender is being questioned at this point. And I think like breaking out of the binary, breaking out of gender binary is like the cutting edge of where sex and sexual expression is happening.
Definitely. There's so many opportunities in that space. And I mean, I guess nuances around how our bodies evolve, what they evolve to, hormonal differences. There's so many things that create this wide variety of opportunity of self-expression, like gender and how you emanate. I know a lot of people who don't like fit the box or fit the mold, like, oh, she's butch, or oh, he's a sissy. I hate saying that out loud, but like those things where it's like, you can't, unless you fit this archetype, you can't be included in this community. Like,
right. Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, my real, like, I think both William and I, our mission is to create as inclusive of a community as possible, and to educate, and how do we make space for that? All sizes, races, expressions. Like, how do we make space for people to start creating more expression in their life? Like, we've had people come to us saying, this was the first, a man come to us saying, this is the first time I've ever dressed like femme and like been able to express in this way. Thank you so much. Like, we have so many heartfelt testimonials from people that are just heartwarming, and have me, continue to want to do this as much as we can.
Yes. Yes. In our conversation the other day, we got the chance to talk about cancel culture. So can we talk about like how that and consent relate?
Yeah. Yeah. So as you might expect, over the last decade of running a sex-based community, we have dealt with a lot of consent violations. And we've seen the Me Too movement. And then we've also seen cancel culture arise. Cancel culture provides a really important aspect of creating a pain point for people to make change. And while I don't think it's ultimately the answer, change occurs at the pain point. I was just reading a quote by Martin Luther King, and he says this. He's like, change occurs at when things get uncomfortable. And so, when the Me Too movement happened, when cancel culture started to rise, people started getting scared. Those people that were getting called out, mostly men. And 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 I think that there are toxic ways in which cancel culture also, like, I think there's a way in which we can push in order to like make change happen. And then I think there's ways in which it can go into shadow. And so, just like with everything, there's shadow with all the things. And so I guess the thing that I want to say is, William and I have been really exploring how do you be in community with people? How do we responsibly, as community leaders, create safety for our community? And do we want, do we want to just kick people out? And what happens when we just kick people out? What happens when we don't tell people what they did? And we just are like, nope, you don't get to be a part of this anymore. And we also can't tell you what happened because the other person doesn't want you to know, or the other person doesn't want you to know who it is that complained about you. So all of these things are like, there's problems inside of all these things that are really hard to solve. And so what we started doing was, like, for one, I really believe that people can change, especially the people that are in our community. Like, I know that there are people out in the world that do not want to change and are entitled and, all the things. And like, there's that whole world out there. That's not my world.
Showing them any pain isn't going to matter.
So I want to create a little bubble here of like who we're talking about. So we're talking about people who are in our community, who I believe fundamentally they want to stay in our community. And because they want to stay, they want to be good. They want to do the good things. And so, and they often, like, there are people that have like bad behavior. And so, and part of that is because our society is really screwed up around sex. And some people just, like, there's neurodivergence things that are happening. There's all kinds of things that happen that create ways in which people don't get when they're harming other people. And then on top of it, our society, it can be one of the worst things to be called somebody who is like a sexual violator or a predator or something like that. And we are very quick, I think sometimes too quick, to label people as predators or that realm of things.
Right. Like immediately making it a negative conversation instead of like, like someone made a mistake or they didn't know or they didn't have the tools.
And I also have to say that there are many people, or, like, there are people that they are perpetual violators and people that do harm. And so I'm not saying that they are not people that have not, perpetually done these things and have, women, mostly women, have tried to tell them that they're doing these things and they need to stop. Like, that is very true. However, it is very difficult. Like, there are no systems for people to actually learn how, like, they get these feedback things and, they get these feedbacks, or, there's like all these nuances about relating and things like that. So I guess the thing that I want to say is one of the things that I have started really standing for is transformative justice, restorative justice spaces, and basically accountability pods. That's where we're taking the accountability pod technology is from restorative justice and transformative justice spaces. And what happens in accountability pods is that the person then starts to be held accountable by people that they know over time. And we can start to actually gather information like, what is this thing that this person keeps doing over and over again and is creating harm with people? Why are they being defensive in this way? How can we actually make it so that they hear what's going on and that they can't do this anymore? Because when we just kick somebody out, we don't tell them what they're doing, and we haven't given them any of the feedback, then they're just going to go to the next community and continue to do the next round of harm that they're doing with the next person that they find. And so some people are people that we just need to talk to once, and like they're like, oh, sorry, I didn't realize that I'm doing this. And then other people are, they've been doing this for years. Sometimes they pick up, like, they tend to go with go for like the younger people or new people in the community, which they don't know about, our standards of practice, things like that. So those kinds of behaviors we want to catch, and we want to like tell them that they're not, these things aren't okay. And so part of what I do is I create accountability pods for people so that they can then get the feedback, start to integrate it, make a report, figure out what their aha moments were, figure out how they can, like how systems that they need to put into place in order to change their behaviors. And then, hopefully things will change. Obviously that doesn't happen for everyone, but we've definitely seen people, make pretty big changes. And that's a much better alternative than having your reputation and dragged through the mud, and also potentially losing all kinds of things. There are some pretty big consequences at this point in the cancel culture realm.
Absolutely. I mean, and we've seen it on multiple levels. The thing that I'm hearing that's like the nugget in here is the consent was violated or the offense was made, whatever happened. And the person, instead of like getting it and like taking it and embodying it, the first thing that happens is getting defensive. I didn't do that. What do you mean? It's not what I meant. It's not how I meant it. And like that pushback is what leads to that conversation. And anyone, like, there are people who refuse to get canceled, and I've seen them, and it's really interesting because sometimes the battle will be a long time before they get the nugget.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that moment when you get feedback, if people could just learn, thank you for letting me know, I want to hear more, instead of, you seem like you were having fun at the time, or, like, I didn't do that, or there was, like, whatever it might be, that is the defense, right? Yeah. Like, you should have told me. Why didn't you tell me? Blah, blah, blah. Like, they didn't tell you because they didn't tell you. They were probably having a freeze response. I think the statistic is like 1 in 7 women have sexual trauma. Like, come on, people, think about it. Like, the fawn response is real, and you can't tell if someone is fawning or having a good time. Like, it's actually, I mean, and that is a scary aspect of like being in a sexual relationship with new people, or, people that you don't know very well. I get that. I get how scary it is to be specifically a man right now who, wants to do well and wants to be in consent, but might be with somebody who, has certain sexual trauma. I mean, I think in our safer sex talks, actually asking people certain questions to find out, like, what would be triggering for you, or, sorry, what would I need to what do I need? What do you need if something is, goes wrong here? How can I show up for you?
Yeah. Oh.
You can keep going.
Okay. Yeah, no. So the thing that I'm hearing also is around being trauma informed. And that's a really big one. Like when you go into a space and you're aware that there might be something there that could be uncomfortable, like to be sensitive and present and open to that. The other thing that, just being trauma aware, trauma informed, can you actually share, like, we're talking about the freeze, peas, fawn, and all that. So just I mean, I only know that there are four, but can you share the trauma responses so that everyone is present to them?
Yeah. So when we are feeling threatened, we might have, our brains go into a protective state. And that is the amygdala. It's a very primal part of our brain. Our prefrontal cortex actually shuts down. So the rational part of our brain is actually shut down. We don't have access to it. And generally what happens is we go into our past and we recreate the ways in which we've protected ourselves in the past. So that might be, it would be fight, flight, fright. Why am I saying fright? Flight, fight, freeze, or appease. I don't know why I had such a hard time with that.
Because it's frightening when you're threatened.
I'm on the spot. And so, and that's why it doesn't make sense sometimes. So when somebody is reacting in that way, somebody might be like, whoa, this is way bigger reaction than what is called for right here. Well, that's because that that then it's a trauma reaction, and you need to accommodate for that and not just be like, you're overreacting, like they're not overreacting for where their psychology is and how frightened or whatever, that happened. So honoring where they're at, being able, and that's what creates a healing space. Like that's when a healing moment can actually happen. The moment you also get defensive. So like, let's say someone just got defensive because they feel scared by something that happened. The moment you get defensive is the downward spiral that's going to happen that will create like a huge issue. And so if I can instill one thing for our audience is if someone has feedback for you about feeling like you might have overstepped a boundary, say, thank you for letting me know. Thank you for letting me know. If you can just remember that, and you can say, I need to regulate my system before I can hear more, but I do want to hear more. Or you can say, I'm here for you and I want to hear more. But just remember, thank you for letting me know. I want to hear more is the response.
Yes. Yes. Oh my God. Misha, thank you so much. This has been an incredible conversation. Is there anything you want to share with our viewers and listeners before we wrap up? Please.
Yeah. So if you're interested in our sex positive community, no matter where you are, we are based here in the Bay Area, and that's where our events are, but we have a robust online community for anyone who is farther away. We are at bonobonetwork.com, and our retreat is coming up at Memorial Day weekend, and we would love to see you there. That's right before Soul Play, two weekends before Soul Play. So, and if you come to Soul Play, we'll see you there. We'll both see you there. So that'll be fun.
I love
and then, yeah. And then if you have experienced harm, or if you are in the middle of a call out, consent call out, please contact me, clearingconversations.com. Bonobo Network also works, but my private practice is clearingconversations.com. I also work with conflict resolution. So would love to, support anybody who needs some support around conflict resolution.
I love it. Thank you so much for your work and your practice and your commitment to the community and society overall. This is why I do the work I do. Okay, everyone out there, thank you so much for joining us today. This is the ItCast, our community outreach podcast that increases diversity in conversations on health and sexuality. Through this work, we're creating a world where all people feel loved, honored, and respected. Please ask us anything. Go ahead and send information in so that we can honor and include you in our conversations as much as possible. Clicking the links for clicking the comments below will have the links. Feel free to click them. And of course, visit us at Soul Play, the 4-day heart-opening, connection, blissful dance, and invigorating yoga, incredible community, and maybe even a little sexy retreat.
Only second base sexy.
Okay, got it. You can find out more on our resource page at theitcast.com. And again, thank you so much for your contributions. Join our community on Patreon and subscribe to this YouTube channel. We appreciate you, and we will see you next week.